This segment is all about exit planning for your business. Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial, and this segment is brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to lead their fields, educate consumers, and to leave a legacy. Joining me on this segment is Eric Cooper. He's the founder of Sooner Business Advisors. Eric, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here, Mark. How are you?
Tell us a little bit about your work and specifically, who are the types of clients that you help?
Absolutely. So what we do really is we demystify exit planning for business owners. How you run your business is inextricably linked from ultimately how you exit your business. And one thing is true of everybody. At some point, whether by will or by force, we're no longer going to be running our businesses. But a lot of us want our businesses to outlast us, right? So how do we solve that problem? How do we solve the retirement problem? How do we solve the transition problem? So that's the work that I do, is I help business owners really manage all those interrelated decisions between three main areas: the personal, the business, and the financial, to ultimately create the outcomes they want to see, whether they exit internally or externally, or they're just graduating from being an owner operator to an executive investor. There's a lot of ways to do it. So how this work came about is I'm an entrepreneur myself. I started my first business at 15. I started a mobile auto detailing business. And I learned more about business in that experience than probably anything that I've done after that point. And I've owned a couple businesses, between now and then. And I think like entrepreneurs. I like them. I like solving their problems. So that's how we came to be.
Right on. Demystifying exit planning. I love it. But, business owners, however, they're great at growing their businesses, but do they even know exit planning is a thing?
No.
Are they aware of exit planning? How prepared are they? What are their preconceived notions about exit planning?
No, I love that question. So to answer the first part, no. This industry of exit planning as being a real thing is only maybe about 10 to 15 years old. So it's still an industry in its infancy. There were some lone wolves doing it before that, but having a codified industry around it and certifications to show competency in it is a fairly new thing. So 9 out of 10 owners that I talk to have never even thought about this, never talked to anybody that claims to do exit planning. And really the main reasons why owners don't talk about it is for two reasons. Number one, exiting their business equals a death of themselves. Lower middle market business owners, the small businesses that drive our economy, people work really hard to make their dreams come alive. And what they're able to do for their employees and accomplish with their families and the skill sets that they've been able to develop are really a core part of them. So any way of divorcing that, or the thought of divorcing that, is very repulsive to them. It's much easier to do what they know how to do, which is run the business day to day, make money, take care of people, have a great reputation in the community, and not deal with the inevitable problem that eventually they're going to have some sort of transition in their life. All we do is provide the clarity to bring that transition on their own timeline and terms, right? I would say the second misconception is that exit planning means planning to sell your business. That is one exit option. There's two different exit pathways, internal and external. And then there's multiple options within those in terms of how you can choose to ultimately transition. Sometimes it's a full transition. Sometimes it's a partial or a gradual transition. We are exit option agnostic, right? All we're doing is bringing the future into the present so we can do something about it now. So that transition ultimately happens on your own timeline and terms. I'll give you one really poignant stat, and I think this comes from the National Exit Planning Institute. 72% of business owners that transition from a CEO or majority stakeholder share position in their business regret it within 72% regret it within 12 months after doing it. And in the survey, almost none of it had to do with the money that they got for it. It all had to do with personal identity being divorced. It had to do with all sorts of a variety of things that really require, and that's why we focus on the personal, the business, and the financial, and the series of sequential and interrelated decisions that actually allow an owner to use the right professionals, have someone who knows how to manage a professional team, and create the most meaningful outcomes that they want to see in their life. The owner is the client. The business is the client.
Fascinating. Now, I'm really curious about the evolution of exit planning. You're talking about some of the lone wolves that were doing it before. Like, what problems did they discover that they were solving? And why was exit planning created?
Yeah. Well, really, it goes back into, I think, the study of generations. I don't think it's sociology. The word's not coming to me. But really, this problem is more of a problem now than it's ever been because of the boomer generation. We're in the midst of the largest transfer of wealth in American history. And with the baby boomers, there were so many of them and there was so much competition. They owned businesses as a percentage more than any other generation in American history. Now, post-boomers, boomers, are their work, right? Generally speaking, generational, they identify very close with it. You look at Gen Z, you look at Gen X, you look at millennials, right? There's kind of not necessarily the personal identity found in the work like there is for the boomers or the back end of Gen X. So the most small business ownership in the history of America was with the boomers. But post-boomers, things like the luxury economy exploded. Things like the cost of a bachelor's degree exploded by 1,300%, right? So people carry a lot more debt nowadays. People don't necessarily find their identity in work. They don't work as long as the boomers did. And people are not necessarily as entrepreneurially inclined because with the cost of living going up and dual income families and the explosion of the luxury economy, it's mainly been, climb the corporate ranks, pay off your school debt, get a good job, right? So really, there's all of these wonderful, profitable businesses that, quite frankly, folks like me and you just aren't in the position to buy. That's why you see all the consolidation in private equity firms. That's why you see so many strategic buyouts and consolidation within these industries, because there aren't folks that are capable of running businesses or interested in running businesses with the capital means to buy a profitable business to be succession plans. So how do we solve that problem? That was really the impetus, probably in the late 90s, where this seed started growing. And then there's some fathers of the industry like John Leonetti and John Deeney and, Pete Chrisman and Chris Snyder, right? That really kind of helped codify this industry and the professional certifications around it so that a guy like myself, who's been interested in this since I was 15, can really start bringing this value, right? You think about all that's involved in that process. Really, to do planning, exit and transition planning correctly, the number one thing is you need to have somebody that understands the framework and how all this interacts with each other. Not necessarily a micro advisor. You can have your investment managers and your business brokers and your tax people and your legal people and your insurance people and all these folks. What I ask all my potential clients and current clients, when was the last time all those advisors were sitting in the same room talking about Mark's aspirations, his most meaningful outcomes, and how we coordinate our expertise and advice in a hierarchy and a sequence and a project management style to make sure that we can effectualize those meaningful outcomes for Mark? Generally speaking, people will say that's never happened. That's what we do. We create that experience in the life of a business owner, whether they're looking to retire or exit 2 years from now or 15 years from now, or it's just an idea, right? Exit planning is just good business strategy.
Really fantastic insight. Eric, what inspired you to get into this field and help business owners with their exit planning? How did you get started?
Yeah, so the first thing is that first business I started when I was 15. When I was researching what business I wanted to start, I was considering what might I have the skill sets to acquire, what might I need the least capital, because I was working at an amusement park making $7.25 an hour, so I wasn't rolling in the dough. And so I needed some money. So I went to a couple friends and pitched the idea to them and got a couple bucks from them and brought my brother in as kind of a more silent partner. But really, even as I was making those decisions on what business I wanted to start and if I wanted partners or not, and how much, ownership would work over the thing we were building that wasn't even worth anything yet because it was just an idea in my head, everything that I was thinking was with the mindset of eventually I want this to have a value so I can sell it, or I want to be able to move off of it, because I just, and I think you can probably relate to this or anyone listening. We all know those business owners in our lives that they own a business, but they work 70 hours a week. They're kind of miserable. It's almost become a cage that they've built around themselves. They're not independent of the business. And I observed that in folks that my family knew, and I didn't want that to be the case for me. So when I was looking to build my first business, I was already thinking about the exit plan before I even registered the DBA. And so that's just always the way that I've worked and operated. And so when I was made aware of this as an industry and some of the certifications that exist in it, it just immediately spoke to me, because it's like, these are the conversations I have anyway. This is the way I think anyway. Wait, you mean I can make a career out of this? And so from there, getting the certifications and building a business model around it and pairing it with my financial planning practice, which I still do for business owners and for clients. It made too much sense. It made too much sense, and I'm too passionate about the work to not do it.
Wonderful. Eric, before I ask you my last question, in regards to exit planning, is there anything that I didn't think to ask you that you feel is really important to share?
Yeah, and that would be, when is the right time to start, right? And this is probably, the biggest question, because a lot of people can hear what I'm saying and think, yeah, I can see how that would apply to my business at some point. But you know what? I'm 36 years old. I've got a profitable business. That's not a conversation for me to have now. That's a conversation for me to have 20 years from now, 25 years from now. If there's one thing you take away from this conversation, just understand that exit planning is simply good business strategy. With my retirement planning clients, for example, we're talking about retirement even when they're 30, 35, 40 years old, even if we're looking at something that's 20, 25, 30 years down the line. All we're doing is planning with the end in mind. We're taking the future and bringing it into the present so we can do something about it now. So if you just want to graduate your level of business ownership, or you just want to run a business that has maximum harvestable value, and you have no idea when you're going to exit, but you want to make sure that your eventual exit is on your own timeline and terms, and you've got a profitable business, a growing business, this type of conversation is for you. It might sound a little different than somebody that I talk to that's looking to sell their business within 2 years, or looking to transfer the business to employees or children, right? But the same concepts that drive that person's ability to have a successful exit then are the same concepts that allow you to maximize profitability, maximize your quality of life, and bring your future exit on your own timeline and terms now, even if it's not something that's in the imminent future. So exit planning, if you run a successful growing business and you're looking to graduate to the next level, this conversation is for you.
Sage advice. For business owners listening who would love to speak with you, how can they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
Absolutely. Our website is www.soonerbusinessadvisors.com. You can check me out there and a couple of my partners as well. Their bios are on there, and then kind of a description of what we do. My email is eric.cooper@soonerbusinessadvisors.com. It's kind of a long URL, but I think it makes sense. Email me directly. I love having conversations. I'm a people person. I try my best to get personally back to everybody that sends me a message. I would love to talk to you, and check us out on our website.
This has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it. Great to be with you. Have a great day.
That was Eric Cooper, founder of Sooner Business Advisors. And this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to lead their fields, educate consumers, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.